Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Now today I wanted to talk about my Atlas strategy, and I realised there's a prerequisite video that I needed to make first, which is introducing the Delve enthusiast channel, the Global 840 channel, and some of the things that have informed the decisions I've made with my Atlas are things that come about because of this community's, I guess, their rules and their precedents about how they share Sulphite in maps. So, quick background to my Atlas strategy. It revolves a lot around the way that Nico missions work in the current league. So this is in the Blight League, and one particularly important thing is that you get a hell of a lot more bang out of each of your red Nico master missions. So this 10 master missions that I've got here for Nico, you'll get a hell of a lot more Sulphite for each of those that you consume if you consume them in conjunction with other players. If I was to go into a tier 16 map myself and run and then run a Nico mission on it, I would get about 5,500 Sulphite. On the flip side, if I was to go into a tier 16 mission with 5 other players in the party and run my Nico master mission, each member of the party would get about 2,800 Sulphite. It's about half as much. But because it's split between 6 players, if each of the 6 players in the group does that, then you'll wind up with about 3 times as much Sulphite as you would get running that map on your own. Additionally, whenever you kill a map boss, and by kill a map boss I mean you are present in the map at the instant that that map boss is killed, you will have an 8% chance to gain a new Nico master mission. So you'll see here that I've got a large amount of Einhar, Elva, Jun, and Zana missions. Actually, not very many Zana missions. I keep running them, trying to get synthesis maps out of them. But each time that you run a map and you complete it, you will have an 8% chance to gain an Einhar mission, an 8% chance to gain an Elva, 8% for Nico, 8% for Jun, 8% for Zana. And thank you to Twitch streamer and YouTuber SlipperyJim8 for determining statistically the percentage rate you will get those masters at, and he's definitely worth checking out. I'll put a link to his video below. But the key thing is that he provides enough evidence to conclusively rule out 6% or 10%, and makes 7 and 9% very unlikely, and so I'm happy to call it 8%. Now you don't need to be you don't need to kill the boss yourself, you just need to be present in the map at the instant that the boss dies. So, the goal of rotations is that, and you'll see here that I've got the Global 840 chat, which usually, it's actually much less business-like than it normally is at the moment that I'm recording this. Normally there's much less chatter, much less build discussion, and much more just people organising rotations. The goal of a rotation is that you go into a map. Each person provides an agreed upon number of Nico master missions, 1, 2, or 3, with 3 being much more common. And you go in there, you find the 3 piles of Nico poo, you ensure that everyone is present so that everyone gets credit for them, and then you kill the boss. Doesn't necessarily need to be in that order. If you come across a boss first, you kill the boss first, then go back to finding the Nico poo. But there's 4 objectives you want to do. If you do this, if everyone provides 1 map each, then on average, each of you will consume 1 Nico mission and 1 map, and on average, each of you will gain 17,000 Sulphite plus 0.48 Nico missions each. So you've only really used 0.52 of a Nico mission, and this is why this is such a popular strategy at the moment. Although sometimes you'll get unlucky streaks, you'll go through a triple rotation, so you'll burn up 3 maps and 3 Nico master missions, and you'll get none back. Other times you'll get an equal amount of happy streaks as well, where you'll run a triple and you'll wind up leaving it with 4 Nicos that you've gained from it. So, with this in mind, you want to be killing the bosses. This means you need a fast boss. So there are 2 things that you don't want to do. You don't want to bring a Guardian map. The Guardians take a little while to kill. Some of them can be legitimately hard. And as a result, and they just have many more hit points than pretty much everything else on the Atlas. So for that reason, the Guardians are out. Other maps that are out, Vaal Temple is out. The boss on this is an absolute nightmare to kill. It's definitely the hardest boss on the Atlas, and so definitely not something that I recommend ever bringing to a rotation or considering bringing to a rotation. You also don't want tiers 14 and lower maps. The reason for this is that Nico is very, very, very sensitive in the amount of Sulphite that he gives you to the map tier. He also has a degree of sensitivity to the map's rolled item quantity as well. So if you pick up a map that's got 80% IIQ on it, that will not be as much. It will not give as much Sulphite as a map that has 100% IIQ. But more important is the tier. All maps that are tier 1 to 14 are out. You need to bring a 15 or a 16, and there's been a little bit of min-maxing that's gone on with the community, and people have worked out the best choices. So firstly, in terms of the natural tier 15s, Coves is an excellent map. If you're running Coves, treat it as a clock face with spokes, and run firstly to 2 o'clock. So that is the east-northeast exit. From 2 o'clock, you then run clockwise around the map. So basically, if you think of the Atlas as a Coves map, this is where you spawn in the center near the Shaper's Realm. You want to then move out to fields first, then go clockwise around. There's no benefit for clockwise over counterclockwise. It's just what more people seem naturally to do. Likewise, there's no benefit to taking the 2 o'clock exit over the 5 o'clock, the 8 o'clock, or the 11 o'clock exit. It's just that it's become the precedent. It's what everyone else in the community will tend to do. So, Coves is an excellent choice of map. Colonnade is a mediocre choice. It would be acceptable, however, the boss takes a little bit longer to kill than other bosses of tier 15 maps. Not because he's particularly hard, but because he has an invulnerability phase. When he drops below, I think it's 50% and 25% health, he teleports away, goes to full energy shield, and has a very short invulnerability phase. For that reason, he's not a very popular choice. Additionally, Colonnade can be a hard map to navigate when you get into it. It's a very straightforward map once you're going, but at the start there's a dead end. Either left or right will be a dead end. It's not clear which one. And so for that reason, Colonnade is not a particularly popular map choice. And most importantly, whilst it would be a serviceable choice to bring to a rotation, enough people have it scrubbed from their Atlas that it's a bad choice to bring, because if people have got it scrubbed from their Atlas, they definitely don't want to be in there when the boss is killed. Next up in the natural 15s is Dark Forest. Dark Forest is a bad map, and you should never bring this to rotations, and you should give some thought to scrubbing it from your Atlas as well. The reason that it's a bad map is that the boss is phased, has invulnerability phases, and also teleports around, making him take much longer than any other bosses. He used to also be legitimately hard. He used to be arguably the hardest map on the entire hardest map boss on the entire Atlas, but he was nerfed considerably in 3.8. Next up we have Siege. I'll come back to Siege in a sec, but don't bring it. And then we have Canyon, which is an excellent choice. Canyon is very straightforward. It's very easy to find all three Nico Poo piles, and it's a great one. Siege. The problem with Siege is not that the map is a bad layout. The map layout is somewhere between serviceable and good. It's not as good as Coves, it's not as good as Canyon, but it is probably better than Colonnade, and it is definitely a better map in theory than Dark Forest is. The problem with Siege is that the Nico Poo piles often spawn right near the start. Now, Nico Poo piles I've mentioned are sensitive to the increased item quantity stat of the map, and they are not. Whereas the map drops in a map are sensitive to just the increased item quantity as a stat as present on the map itself. So if you've got a map that says that it's 112% increased item quantity, map drops are 110 plus 110%. Sorry, I said 112. For Siege, the problem is that the Nico Poo piles, at the time they're first discovered, so at the time they first appear on the minimap, their value is set, and they are heavily influenced by the number of players in the map. Each player in the map provides 50% increased item quantity. At the time that you load into Siege, Whoever goes in first, maybe the map maker, it may be someone else in their group, there will be no other players in the map at the instant that they zone in. And so when there are 1 or 2 poo piles within immediate visibility of the loading spot, those will be set to just single player Sulphite. And then you'll end up sharing single player Sulphite between 6 players, which is not great. Because of this situation, Siege and any other map where Nico poo piles regularly spawn right on the entrance should not ever be considered for any of the Sulphite rotations. Which is a pity because the boss is easy, the layout is good, it would otherwise be at least a second tier choice. For tier 16s, the best choice is Beach. Beach just eclipses all the other options on the Atlas. It's got a boss, well, the map is a bit shorter than Strand. Strand is a similar layout, but the boss is earlier in the map. So with Strand you have to run all the way from the start to the end. And Strand is also quite an empty map, so sometimes people will run out of flask charges for their movement flasks if they're using one. So for that reason, Strand is a bad choice. Beach does the same thing but does it better. It's a very easy boss, one that pretty much any character that's in the Sulphite rotation channel can probably solo with 6-player hit point scaling in effect. So yeah, very, 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 very easy boss. Very smooth layout. No real decision trees in navigating it. It's just a case of run start to finish and you will be fine. The other maps that would be considerations, although inferior to Beach, there is Tier 16 Shore as an option. This would be a good choice. The problem with Tier 16 Shore is that it's a pain in the ass for that section of the player base that are using Whirling Blades as their movement skill to navigate. If you're using Flame Dash, Beach is excellent. If you're using Leap Slam, sorry, not Beach, Elder Shore is excellent. If you're using Leap Slam, Elder Shore is excellent. But if you're using Whirling Blades, it's kind of terrible. And so for that reason, because just enough players use Whirling Blades, it ends up just not really working as an alternative to Beach. So you can see here that I've got it as a Tier 13 map. That's just because when I get them to drop, I'm always happy to run them. But I'm not really going out of my way to force them to drop or anything like that. So, that's some of the map choices. So the default is bring Canyon, Coves, or Tier 16 Beach. There's also some Tier 15 shape choices that are worth considering. I have Moon Temple Shape from earlier in the league, don't bother with that. Dunes is a reasonable option, but is generally speaking inferior to Canyon. I use it because I like the map. I tend to run those maps myself. And Bog sometimes suffers the same effect as Siege. Sometimes you will have a Nico poo pile within range when you enter, and so for that reason, whilst I'm running Bogs when I'm just mapping, I'm quite happy to get them. I don't recommend them as a rotation map. So the default is bring Canyons, bring Coves, and bring Tier 16 Beaches. And don't bring fucking Vaal Temples. You know who you are. This is me talking to someone in the Global 840 channel. You know who you are. Don't bring them, please. So, etiquette for Sulphite rotations. You can use a red Nico mission or a Sulphite Scarab of any tier, and no one will know or care which one you used. So if you've got Gilded Sulphite Scarabs, if you've got Polished Sulphite Scarabs, and if you've got Nico missions, no one really cares, just use whatever you want. The standard expectation is that you respect other players' inability to beat Reflect maps. So don't bring a map that's got Reflect, even if you can trivially do that Reflect. So if you get a map that has, say, Elemental Reflect, and you're a pure Physical Cyclone build, you don't want to bring it because it will slow the whole group down. There is an exception. If you have the relevant sextant that makes players immune to reflect damage, then in that case it is fine to run a reflect map. However, please warn summoners. Summoners may not know this, but the reflect sextant does not make their minions immune to reflected damage. It only makes the player immune, and as a result, their summoned creatures will kill themselves very, very, very rapidly, and they should be able to, at least they should be let know of this effect so that they can unsummon their minions or make some other arrangements. They may decide not to attack anything in there. Now, use a very, very, very strict loot filter. My standard rule of thumb is that Chaos Orbs and up I will pick up, but if it's in the sort of Chaos Orb to Journeyman Cartographer Sextant tier, and it drops a screen and a half away, even then I will just run past it. If it's in the Chaos Orb tier and it drops on the screen, I'll pick it up. Essentially, what the reason for this is that you picking up loot doesn't just slow you down, it slows 6 people down. And so you should be 6 times as stingy on what you pick up as you would be if you were playing just by yourself. So blitz past the lower stuff, and very importantly, do not initiate map events. So map events are things like your Legion monoliths, your abysses, your breaches, and the like. Players aren't interested in doing these in a rotation, they're just looking to get through quickly. And whilst these events can be quite lucrative to do by yourself, they don't scale well with multiple players, and they will end up just, everyone will run past, but then some straggler will sometimes get killed by them because they're the most dangerous part of the map. This also is very true for blights. It's not some disaster if you accidentally set off a blight because you misclick. But you want to be making an approach of, or you want to have an attitude of, don't deliberately set these off, and if you do accidentally set one off, just move past it, but try to make it safe for other players. Now, most players, and I'll just jump back into the Global 840 channel for a second, and you'll see here, most players will specify that the details of their rotation in their message when they're asking for more people. So LFM means looking for more. Triple Nico Sulphite Rota means each person that enters contributes 3 red Nico missions plus 3 maps. Coves, Canyon, Beach. Obviously there's a typo there, but they meant Coves. So you can bring any of those 3 maps. Obviously Beach will mean the tier 16 version. Boss kill means that they're killing bosses. This is now absolutely standard. Earlier in the league it was left a bit more open as to whether or not players thought it was worth killing bosses. And then 90 plus quantity. 1 of 6 means that they've got 1 player and that they want 6. You'll always want 6 in these groups. And they want you to link the maps so that they can quickly verify that you're not bringing something that doesn't, that is not in line with what's normally expected. So if someone were to link a Vaal Temple to this guy, he would probably say, read the message, no. Or if you were to link an Elder Primordial Blocks, even if it was 128% quantity, they would say, no, not interested. And so there's also, this channel also has a lot of other discussion, but it is more business-like than most global chats, and it does work better when it's that way. The standard that you'll expect is that players will accept Coves, Canyon, and Beach and will kill bosses, and that they will expect 90% quantity. However, some people will have variants on that, and you should respect them. Read their message and respect any variants that they make, or alternately choose not to join them because you don't like their variants. Maybe they're doing Colonnade as well. They're allowing Coves, Colonnade, Canyon, Beach, or nice Elder maps. And if you deliberately don't want Colonnade on your Atlas, then you shouldn't join that group. Just wait for the next one. They'll go up pretty frequently. Likewise, if your Sulphite capacity is less than 46,000, you won't want to join a triple ever. And so for that reason, you just have to wait for doubles or run one yourself. So yeah, just respect it. Read the person that's organizing the group's description, and then decide whether or not you'll join accordingly. Other quick etiquette things: if your build creates a lot of particle effects, the rest of the party would rather carry you than have to deal with high latency. So just run along, just zoom, 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 run, and don't actually try to contribute. This especially goes for summoners. Summoners, please unsummon your zombies. Zombies add a lot of lag, and whilst they may make a huge difference in your personal performance, they probably won't make any difference in the group's performance overall. In fact, they'll probably end up making the group weaker. In the event that you die in a map, stay in dead until you see other players leaving the map. You will still gain the 8% chance of a Nico Master mission replenished this way, as well as 8% chance to get each of the other masters, if you care about those. And your corpse being in the instance increases the IIQ of the map, the increased item quantity. You'll miss out on Sulphite. That's just unfortunate, but you will still gain the favour if you care about hideout decorations, and as I said, the Master Replenish. The other thing that comes up with dying in these maps and with Sulphite, you want to make sure that when a Sulphite node is clicked, that everyone that is still alive in the map is within about a screen of the Sulphite node. There's a limit as to how far Sulphite will share, and you don't want to wind up clicking one when not everyone is there. What you want to do in order to ensure that this happens, the person whose map device it is and whose Nico Master mission it is, they should be in charge of making sure that the Sulphite is clicked at an appropriate time. Now, if you miscalculate your numbers and cap early, then please stay in and contribute your maps and your missions. And then, just ask the rest of the group. Once you've contributed all your maps and all your missions, just say, hey, I'm capped. Do you guys mind if I drop? Definitely do not agree to provide your masters in exchange for others and then run off without opening your own maps. You will very quickly get blacklisted by this community. I would suggest that you join a few other people's rotations before hosting your own. People will want to move fast, and so you want to get a bit of experience as to how they run in order to then take that into your own ones. Lastly, I say don't shit up Global 840 too much with off-topic chat. The last couple of times I've clicked it, you see here that we've got a whole lot of sort of off-topic discussion. Generally speaking, people prefer this channel to remain fairly business-like and to stay as just delve Sulphite sharing and Sulphite rotation organizing and the occasional off-topic discussion. Definitely do post your All's Uprising drops and the like when they come up. Definitely do ask for advice that is of a delve specific nature. So for instance, if you're having trouble beating all, then maybe you can ask people for advice there. But otherwise, if it's something that's just a general question, ask Google instead. In any case, that's all I've got for the moment on introducing the Global 840 setup. I will then be discussing as a separate video, which should be a fair bit shorter, my Atlas strategy, but the basics of it is just T16 Beach, and nothing else really matters that much, but it is potentially worthwhile scrubbing the Guardians, and it's potentially worthwhile scrubbing Colonnade, Siege, and Dark Forest, and also not using your tier 10 Sulphite or your tier 10 Shapers Orbs. I've not decided to go down that route. I'm going with 159 instead, so that I can then benefit from having 5 Sextants, and I can benefit from the highest tier map drops while I'm delving. But if you've got any questions, definitely fire away. Otherwise, hope you have a good one.